fucking must. Welcome to MZBC, the podcast. I'm not going to say for September 10th, 2023.
It's 12.
Wait, what?
It's 12. Today's September 10th.
Man,
But you said you're going to say.
boy.
That's
This
what
is
I
going to
said.
be
I'm
great.
not going to say September 10th.
Oh, you're not going to
It's
say.
going to say September 12th.
Yeah, September
for our new
12th.
Intro, but
Yeah.
yeah.
guys know
Welcome
the
to
day.
MZBC, the podcast. September the 12th. We'll pretend like 2023. Coming to you live from not the Reclaim Lair either, because we don't like Lair. We thought we did, and then I've heard through some murmuring in the corner of the couch that Lair doesn't feel good.
in the middle of
I heard whispers of Batcave, Batman, this stuff like that. So coming to you live from the new studios at Mount Zion Baptist Church. I'm joined today by Sandy Srey. What's up, Sandy?
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
And Emmanuel Griffin.
Once again, Howry.
Everyone knows Emmanuel if you listen to the podcast in the past. Grew up with at Mount Zion, graduated with honors in athletics and academics.
Some may say. Some may say honors when it comes to athletics.
Went away to Savannah State, got his degree in accounting, and went back to get his master's in
Accounting, practically.
BA, whatever's it called, a MBA.
Well, the school calls it a MAC, but it's basically MBA. It's just a master's in accountancy, which is a glorified term.
So you're
for
Mac. Mac.
I mean, yeah. Well, yeah.
It goes along, Sandy, though, with him saying that he's a rare breed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that. Well, I mean, you all heard it here. I didn't call myself that. That was all from Russell.
Hey, clip that part right there that he says he didn't call himself that.
The
And
rare breed. I claim that. The Mac Daddy part. Russell.
That's true. Yeah. That was just a personal feeling. That's what I see you as.
I'm awesome.
Yeah, that's it. So, anyways, he went back and got his master's. Now you have a real job.
Yeah, now I'm working for the man. I'm just kidding. Yeah, for what they call the economy of the world now, trying to pay bills.
Oh, the economy of the
Yeah,
world.
trying to keep the world spinning. So I work for Hancock Askew, which is a tax.
Ooh, no free ads, man. No free ads. They can sponsor the podcast, but we don't name.
You're right. I'm sorry. I work for as a tax accountant. If you need my card, just come on by. I got you.
Oh man. So
no, I do taxes. So.
Good. So if last time you noticed, E-Man was on with us via Zoom because of work, and so now we're back in person. And so, E-Man, thank you for joining us. We're glad that you're back.
Glad to be here.
Yep. And then you'll notice who's not here, Mike, and he's transitioned, not to heaven.
Yeah, not.
Yeah, let's not.
Yeah. Now, Mike, if you're listening, we miss you, man.
We do miss you.
We really miss you.
We do miss you. So Mike and Haley have transferred to another church now in Levi, and so just all is well with that. If you were curious, what was the fallout? Brought E-Man on, he became a prima donna, and Mike had to get out of here. I don't know.
I mean,
if you're working with a rare breed, it's hard to keep up. So I don't think that's what happened. But this Mike and I met, and honestly, speaking as the pastor, one of the hardest things I think that happen in a church is when someone comes to you and says they're leaving. Because as a person, I think you immediately say like, "What did I do?" Or you know, internally. Is it me? Or like, what's the deal? And I don't think it was that. And Mike would tell you that it's not that. And so I'm going to trust his word on that. What he told me and what I shared with you guys, and we'll talk about it for a minute here, that it was the kind of similar to the calling of Abram. When God came to Abram, he didn't necessarily tell him, I want you to do this, this, and this is exactly how you do it, which is rarely the case with God anyways. I mean, when he came and told Noah to build the ark, that was pretty specific, but I've learned a lot of other things with God. It's kind of like you just have faith and practice and come with me, and then I'm going to get you there. Yeah. And that's kind of what Mike correlated this call, this feeling that he had from God. It wasn't just a spur of the moment decision they made. It was a pray about it, think about it. It took a long time to even talk to me about it. And this is the scripture that I wanted to read about that, just so we are on the same page. But it comes out of Genesis chapter 12, and it says, "The Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land that I will show you." He says, "I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." And I think that's Mike's heart. I think that's Haley's heart. I think that's what they want for Levi to see, is for them to be, and I think Mike sees himself, and he would say this too if he were on the podcast, and evangelist. Yeah. Like, he's definitely wanting to get out there and spread the gospel. I think that's what he was on the podcast through all the stories that we heard through the trucking and all that kind of stuff, that he loves sharing the gospel. And it was just a point where when you're in church, like, you guys may agree or disagree with this, we're all around a bunch of people that they're not really sick, I guess you want to say. Like, they say church is a hospital, but there's not a lot of sick people around. We're most of us are healthy.
Yeah.
Spiritually, maybe. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. And so what he felt was, and Mike, I'm sorry I'm putting words in your mouth, kind of felt like being an evangelist is hard to do inside of a church.
I get when you, with that description, that is the perfect way to read it. At first, I'm like, what do you mean by sick?
Yeah.
But as far as like the evangelistic part of it, being able to do what you feel God has called you to do is kind of hard to do inside of a place where
everybody's
all healthy.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's kind of healed.
And please hear me, there are definitely sick people and broken people here, like I'm one of them. But I guess he was just not totally lost. Yeah. And so that's hard to share. And then you get to like, if you're not if your heart is evangelism and it's getting people the gospel and them converting or whatever, the discipleship part is a whole nother avenue, And if that's not where God pulled your passion to, then I get it, and Mike led the class for, I'm going to say years, the men's class. It wasn't just like a year or two. It was like several years. And so he did the discipleship part. He did the, there was it came to the point where he's like, dude, I just don't know there's anything else I can do in this position right here. So I'm going to go see. And I'm like, I respect that. What do you say to that? Now,
the best thing you said was respect.
Now, E-Man asked me this question. How did you respond well to them leaving Mount Zion?
Did I?
Ask me this question.
Did you respond well?
No.
And I can understand that. I mean, like you said it. As a pastor, it's kind of tough for when people come to you and say, hey, we're leaving. Because as a pastor, you say it's easy as the pastor to be like, okay, well, I understand God is leading you to other places. But as a friend, it's like, really, bro?
Yeah.
Like, we've been rocking since for however it may be, but I could definitely understand the human aspect of it. It's like, oh man,
that's absolutely what it is. And to be 100% honest with you, and I have pastor friends that can verify this for me, that I've talked to since this happened. I went to a meeting like 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, and the gentleman leading the little devotion, like at the beginning, was saying like, how do you feel when people leave your church and go to other churches in the association that we're connected to? And I was like, man, it sucks, like hurts, like it's terrible, and whatever. And then he was like, well, flip it over. How do you feel when people from other churches come to your church and join? And I was like, oh, pretty psyched about that. Like,
valid point. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty good. So I literally got up in that meeting. Well, didn't get up, but in my mind, I checked out of that meeting and I texted Mike and Haley in a group text sitting there in that meeting, and was like, I could read you the text. I'm pretty sure I can say it, but it was like, I did not handle you leaving very well. Like, I kind of hold a grudge or something, or feel some type of way. And I just said, honestly, this is it. Like, I think I just miss you. Yeah. I think I miss you. I think I miss your son. Like, I think it's just like a real personal.
That's human.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'm going to continue to fail you. I was like, I'm going to continue to let you down. Right. Like that's just it. But I hope you can slide me some grace on this one. Yeah. And of course, they both said, of course, like, we get it, all that good stuff. But man, that's real life, and that's hard. Yeah. And that's like the stuff that when you think about church and you don't know church, because, I mean, remember, I don't know church. Like, I've only been in church since 2004, 19 years. I'm 46. There's 27 years of my life I don't know church. Yeah. And the other ones I'm trying to figure it out. And so
that's like, I think the best way you said it was, that's human. I mean, I think everybody experiences that feeling in some way or some fashion. Maybe not in church, but in life. Yeah. It's like, oh, I was doing great here. I was happy where I was at work. Now my boss coming to me saying, hey, we're going to move you. Wait a minute, bro.
Nobody likes change.
Yeah, no one. And I think that's the thing that I know of me. I hate change because it's uncomfortable. And I think the feeling of being uncomfortable, I don't like being uncomfortable. Of course. If it's too hot, turn on some AC. If it's too cold, turn on some heat. But like I said, being uncomfortable sometimes is required. Yeah. We don't like it, but it is how we grow. Yeah. And it happens. And
it happens. And I think at the end of the day, after everything is said and done, we're both better because of it. Well, I say all three of us are better because of it as people, as believers. And they went to a church right down the road that we're all very familiar with, that our kids have attended school at and stuff like that. So they're close. They're going to a great church. Proud of them, all that good stuff. But point being, Mike's not alone on the podcast.
Right.
So, Mike, we love you.
And we miss you. Hey, in the comments,
if we're being honest,
know when you want to join back.
If we're being honest, right? Even we miss seeing Levi on the Zoom even more.
That too. And what's the cat's name?
The cat's name was Mystic.
Mystic. I don't know if it was. I don't know. Mike, it might not have been you. It might have been Mystic.
Might have been Mystic.
But
and
we
Levi.
miss you too, Mike.
Yeah, that's right. Love you, dude.
Love you.
But Sandy, in the same topic. Now, your life, you haven't been to many churches.
Nope.
Like,
not really.
Are we like second or third?
Third, like home church, like calling it home, but I've visited other churches, of course. But
okay, so the podcast doesn't know who you are.
I was just going to ask.
Who are you?
That's why
Sandy,
I was sitting
Srey.
back waiting for my
You did great.
introduction.
It was coming. It was coming. So Sandy we met 2 years ago, almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
We met for like a year and a half, and one day someone came to me as I was finishing up preaching, because I had just laid my heart out and said, we need people to help lead worship. We need young people to do this and do that. And someone came to me after church and said, do you know Sandy is a worship leader? And I was like, well, how would I know if you didn't tell me? So no, I did not know that she was a worship leader. So myself, Sandy, and Nara, her husband, he's a super cool guy. I don't want to get into that, but everyone knows what I think about Nara, and I think he's awesome. We went out to dinner one night or lunch or something, and we just talked and hung out. And so ever since then, she's been involved in worship. She's involved in our young adult ministry, outreach ministry through volleyball and different activities. And so that's who she is. But you can tell your story. Like, where did you come from? Tell us about the church, like that you would say is a home church, and then how did you end up at Mount Zion?
Quick little rundown of who Sandy is.
Well, that's a...
It's a lot. No, that's a lot. That's why I asked you beforehand. I asked you before, like, do you want to tell the whole story? And I don't think you have to. I just think you should tell enough to be like, why do we care who you are?
I'll make it short and sweet.
There you go.
Basically, I'm actually from Virginia. Moved here after I got married, and we started going to a church that my husband was going to at the time, and it's a Cambodian church. And we served there for a little bit, and then COVID hit, and that basically threw a wrench in everyone's plans. Basically, our pastor ended up passing away. And so we kind of was in this stage of what do we do now? And we were praying about it. And at the church we were attending that time, there wasn't really like any youth, young adults, any like kind of ministry that we could be involved in. And I have like the biggest heart for like serving. And so I wanted to go and see what other churches were out there, because we didn't really like church shop, they call it. Okay. We didn't really do that before just coming to this church. And so, yeah, we did that for a little bit, went to go see other churches and checked it out. And we ended up just coming here because some of our friends that we knew came here. Mm-hmm. And so we checked out Mount Zion after like maybe 2 or 3 other churches. And
who are the other ones so we can know who we beat out?
No, I'm just not like it's a competition or anything.
Not gonna name names. But no. So yeah, when we came to Mount Zion, everybody was so welcoming. We felt, I said this to my husband, and I was like, this feels like my home church back in Virginia. And so I was like, this is it. We have to come here. We have to.
And they cashed out.
Serve here, and we was all in after that. And now we currently go here, and it's been like 2 years now that we're here, and it's been a great journey so far. And
it's been a really cool, the last 3 years. So 3 years ago, I mean, it's hard to believe that COVID was already 3 years ago, coming up on like 4, like 3.5, I guess we're closer to. But it's crazy that at that time in the history of Mount Zion, the young adult ministry was almost non-existent. I mean, you were just going into college. Yeah, you were like 20-ish, 21. Your brother had moved away. Like those people had grown up and moved away. There really wasn't like 20 to 28-ish happening. Like there were no babies. There were no people. And it was like, so we started praying. Like, I guess I'm saying this to say the power of prayer. So we started praying when I first took over. Like, God, send us young families. God, send us young people. Not that, because this is like a delicate topic, right? when there's older people in your church and you're praying for younger people, they're like, well, what
you're praying for?
You know what I mean? And then when there's vice versa, when you're praying for both, and it's, as a pastor, it's hard to meet both. I wouldn't say expectations, because I haven't really had anyone place expectations on me. It's hard to meet both the expectations I place on myself,
right.
Like to connect with each person. Fulfill both of those things. And so, anyways, we prayed, and it was so cool because like God has brought. I mean, I think we have 7 or 8 new babies. We have all these families, young people coming in, Sandy and Nara being one of those couples. And then very recently, I met with a young couple, and one of their reasons for joining Mount Zion was that the young adult ministry is so happening and flowing. And I was like, that's so amazing because
for it works.
Yeah, because like 3 years ago, we didn't even have that. Right, it wasn't even an option like to say, come join, we have young family. So it was kind of cool to see how God worked that out. And so so Sandy and Nara joined, they serve, they do a ton of different things around here. And part of what benefits me, I say benefit, I don't know how to say it right. Part of what helps me as a pastor, as a leader at Mount Zion, is Sandy's perspective on things, because we don't always see things the same way. She doesn't see them in a bad way. She sees them as a age girl that she is, and I see him as the old guy that I am. And so she's younger and sees things in a different light. But I think that's healthy, right? Like you want to...
I mean, the best saying, you don't want to have just one perspective in the room. If everybody says, yeah, you're right, you should feel kind of bad. It's like, okay.
Everyone's always agreeing with you?
If everybody agrees with me, I mean, I think people having different opinions is what makes
it's healthy.
It's healthy. What makes you the leader of the pastor you are.
Yeah.
Okay, I had this idea. Sandy had this idea. This is how I was able to make it work for both of us.
Yeah. And her being on staff recently, we've had, I guess, moments where I don't even know that she knows what she's saying is like critique is a bad word. What's a word for positive critique?
Positive criticism.
Constructive
encouragement. I'll say not even criticism, but like, just coming in, like for instance, the podcast we were talking about that she shared with me and said, "Hey, listen to this one. Like, I'm not saying you do this, but just be aware that pastors do this, and it irks people." And so she sent it to me. I listened to it, and I was like, "Yeah, good. I don't do that." Check mark. You know what I mean?
Wow. I was not expecting
that's all he got out
in
of
other
it.
words, well, thanks for telling me what I don't do.
No. You're missing my point. See, that's not what I was saying. I was doing a checkpoint just to add dramatic effect. But I did watch it. And okay, so if we're being totally transparent, and I like the podcast because you have to be transparent, I did go into it going like, did she say I do this? Because if she's saying I do this, me and her got to talk, because I don't do this, and like, what is she expecting? And so I listened to the whole podcast, and it turns out it's someone that's very famous that I didn't realize who I was even watching, which I think that was good. I didn't know it was who it was when I watched it. I thought it was just a girl. If I would have known who she was, I would have listened to it different. Yeah. But anyways, and so the stuff she was saying, some points I would say, oh, I get that, and other points I'm like, totally not me. But it was good, because it was like investing.
It opened your eyes to
something I would have never looked at before. Something I wouldn't have looked at before. And so that's what I love about that. And I think just in general, our church is in this position where, and I talk to a lot of pastors, and things are just different from community to community, which you say, duh, that's a duh statement, right? Like, of course, things are different, community. But even as close as like 15 or 20 minutes down the road, where Mount Zion is positioned, is interesting compared to a Glen Haven or a Eagles Landing or you fill in the spot of whatever little other church you're talking about. And so there's not like many, when Sandy first came on, I think one of the things I told her was like, there's not like any books that are going to tell you how to minister at Mount Zion. There's not like anything that's going to tell you this is how you do it here, because it's just different. And I don't know how to explain it. And Pastor Chris, we used to talk about it all the time, and we didn't necessarily know how to explain it, but it's just a unique place to serve. I love it. I don't love it. I want to run. I want to stay. Like, it's all these things all the time. And I think that's why it's so cool that God is what we cling to for our energy and for our endurance and to keep going. Because if it was anything up to me, not just this community, just serving humans in general, I would run from.
Oh, absolutely. with the quickness. I mean, no, you don't have to ask twice. Yeah. Will you do with the...
It's just something about us.
Yeah. I mean... You can't live with them, can't live without them. It's something about it. Yeah.
So Sandy, what has been that's how we met in the Cambodian church. So the pastor actually passed away from COVID. Mm-hmm. It's true. And so that was a mean, that's the season of life right there. There's like a lot happening in that moment, and that's when we just happened to be opening back up from COVID, right? Like we were one of the first ones to open back up right around here, and so that was good. And then, it was probably a year that we sat in the same building and worshiped, in 9 months at least, and didn't know anything about. So that's like a thing, right? Like someone comes to your church for 6 to 9 months, you should know like they were a worship leader where they just came from or something. But I don't know. It's like weird because how do you? I don't know.
How do you reconnect after such a disconnect?
It was such a hard time, because we were still wearing masks. Like, didn't even know what their faces looked like. No, like just hello.
That
and
was a real
if
thing.
Someone visited, like you weren't sure they visited. You didn't even know. You couldn't even tell. Just a really weird time to be alive and to be, especially working in church business. And that was the year I took over. So that was insanity.
You took over in the very.
I had gray beard. I had a gray beard already before that,
but it might have got a little more defined during that period of time.
So Sandy, what type of church was the Cambodian church? Was it what's different? I guess I'm asking than Mount Zion and a Cambodian church.
Well, the language for one. Like,
that's a good way to start.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, that's a good barrier.
Yes. It was mostly predominantly in that language too. Like Khmer, the services were only that, and so it was kind of hard for us as well to even get fed at the same time.
So how fluent are you in? What did you just say the word was?
Khmer is the language.
How fluent are you in that?
I am. You
can communicate.
Yeah. I can understand better than I can speak it.
Okay, I got that. Yeah,
I can talk to my mama. That's
That's all that matters, mama. We can communicate.
Tell mama I love her.
But and it was a very small church. Most Cambodian churches are very small, and it was just. It's they do things like we do here, but on a smaller scale.
Okay,
but. The Cambodian people have a heart.
Well, I was gonna say, what is the heart of a Cambodian person? Like,
they love people.
Okay.
And especially like the older generation of Cambodian folks, they love like seeing the younger generation do things. And as we were serving, it was only a handful of young people in that church. So when they saw us serving, they were encouraged by us stepping in and stepping out, and doing things like that. And so they just love young adults, young people doing things.
Yes.
And is it? I remember John Lee told me one time, or maybe it was Wang Cheng, that in the church that they grew up in, or whatever, that youth were considered like they would call young adults youth, like all the way up until like 20 something.
Yes.
And so then when they would come here and say like youth, and I'd be like, I'm thinking teenagers, and they're talking adult.
Like I still say youth. Instead
talking
of
about
like
your
young
group.
adult class, it's youth.
So at what age do you graduate?
I don't know. Actually, I still haven't graduated.
I'm not gonna tell her age because you don't do that. But they're far from youth.
We'll talk after. Like, what's youth now? I'm gonna Google it.
So how did that affect the church? Like, well, obviously, when did the church just go away?
No, the church still is
still there.
Yeah,
okay,
still there, and they've actually gotten a new pastor. He came straight from the motherland, so that's great. And he's filling in and doing things. I hear.
Awesome.
We haven't visited in a while, but they always want us to come back. Like. They keep calling us to come back.
Whoever your new boss is should give you the weekend off to go visit your home church.
I know.
Who is this guy?
Just
nudge.
Who is this
boss guy of this place? I don't know.
Won't even let her go visit her old church.
No.
It's tough.
This guy's tough, man.
We're gonna pray for that new boss.
Please do. That guy needs a lot of prayer. And so
people who work for him do need prayer.
Right. Well,
you've been hanging out with our youth director too long. We have I think our staff setup is very unique, just based on other staffs I meet and people, and I love it. Like we are, I think I'm too close to them, honestly. Like they can cut up with me way too much. I feel like at some point,
let's rein it back in.
Yeah, at some point there's like, I am the pastor. Settle down. I'm just joking. But there are times when we're out and about, and people are like, and Sandy can vouch for this, but they'll just stop in their tracks and be like, "Wait, he's your pastor?"
Facts.
Wow. Really?
And we have to stop and be like, yep. And then I go home thinking, what do they mean by that? Like I'm too not what? Like what? Why are they so surprised that I'm their pastor?
I think we said it from day one. Like, you're the only pastor that's like, okay, well, he's the pastor, but he's like, that's Russell.
See, I know.
I mean, I don't mean it to sound bad, but it's like,
I don't take it as bad. I take it as
the fact that people can actually talk to you like, I'm 25 years old, you're not going to say your age?
I'm 46. I don't care. I mean, it's all over.
I'm 25 years old, you're 46, and I can still have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And not be like, oh, let me get away from this old guy.
Yeah.
Or you, let me get away from this young teenage guy.
Preach, yeah.
And I think that's rare on both spectrum.
Well, I think what you just said is I'm a rare breed.
Well, you're welcome. 2 rare breeds. I don't know who needs to pick up the slack, but 2 of us have been here.
I got to clip that video. I still haven't done that yet. Me and Sandy
I got to earn my rare breed.
Yeah. And we did watch the video last week, though, E-Man, and it was, I mean, it's going to be a good advertisement for the podcast whenever we clip it together. You talking about being a rare breed. It was good. But I do agree with that but that also makes me feel both ways. Like I'm saying, like it makes you feel like I like that. And I think as Pastor Russell, as just the person that never thought they would be the lead pastor and now am the lead pastor, I think that exactly how it should be. Like you should be able to approach and talk and do whatever with the pastor. Mm-hmm. But there are other things that I feel like if I was different, then I wouldn't. I think some battles would be easier to win if I was more. I will say tougher, but if I was tougher,
I can understand that. But at the same time, you would also be facing different battles. So it's like
facts. Sorry.
I hope you all were in church on Sunday because facts became a new word.
Yeah.
But
the last Sunday. Had to be last Sunday. This Sunday I said it once on purpose. Right. I didn't say it any on purpose.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as insecure as I am, if someone tells me that I say a word over and over and over, I will do everything in my power not to say that word.
If it comes naturally.
In 2020, when I started preaching like every week, obviously I'd never done it in my life before. So, okay, hello, God, I'm terrified. Like, what are we doing here? But I guess I was doing like touching my nose every time I would read. And I didn't even know. The person that loves me the most, apparently. Like the person that I've dedicated my life to and
awesome.
will promise to live till death do us part. But she never says anything to me, so I know when she does say stuff to me, like I need to pay attention to it. So that was one of them. And then a couple of words I've used from time to time that were not the right word in the moment. I mean, they worked, but they weren't. They
didn't mean exactly what you were trying to say.
They weren't the exact.
So you went back and Googled it. Like,
and I've done a couple of what do they call those phrases that are like that people just know, like you just say them and like people know what they are. Like I don't know, but anyways, I've used a couple of those not correctly.
Metaphor? I don't get it.
Metaphor maybe is the word for it. I'm trying to think of one right now. The one I always mess up. I can't think of it right in the moment. I'm nervous with that blue light on the camera, but. I'm just joking. But I've messed up a couple. And actually one I messed up twice. And the second time I messed it up, I caught myself in the moment. I just looked at it and I said, okay, I know. I know. Service? Oh, I know what it is. I have used the phrase, something fails in comparison twice.
Something fails in comparison.
Like if I've been describing something, I say, and it fails in comparison to God's love or God's beauty or whatever. And that is completely wrong. What is the right saying? Because I'm not. If y'all don't know it, then I don't feel as bad.
I did not go to school for grammar, spelling, punctuation, or anything of that nature.
English is my second language.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. So hey, he used it correctly.
So if I would have said it fails in comparison, you guys were like, I get it.
Yeah,
doesn't even compare. And that's how my simple mind took it too. Thank you for helping. Pales in comparison. It pales in comparison.
Pales.
You know, that sounds like an
I would
English
say
teacher response.
Pales.
I'm not going to spell it on camera because I don't want to get it wrong. But it's got something to do with like vivid colors and like it's pale. Like it's like P-A-L-E.
Oh, okay.
Pale. Like like my skin on this video here pales in comparison to this olive skin that you see right here.
I feel very bright right now.
No, you're not. So yeah, so I've used that one wrong, a couple other ones, but
so you say compares and wait,
I said fails in comparison, and it's pales in comparison. Yeah,
I like fails.
I like fails.
Thank you, and that's exactly what I walked away saying. I told her, well, my way is better.
I would have to co-sign.
Hey, thank you. All right, well, good. I'm gonna go write down E-Man and Sandy.
Now, don't take that into an argument.
Said that I'm good to go. So things like that, and I don't even know what got me to talking about that. What was I even saying that got me to tell what I was?
we were talking about how you were personable.
Yes, that's right. And so saying stuff like that, being up there like trying to preach. I mean, I've taken classes on preaching, right? Because you have to go through seminary. But dude, whatever books say and whatever, until you get up there and try to talk every week, it's a challenge. But it's a good challenge. You know, I love it. I like communicating the gospel. I'll do it anytime I get a chance to communicate the gospel. But yeah, I'm very sensitive to people telling me like what words I use over and different things like that. But I'm not telling you guys to stop doing that, because it'll help me, because I will get into a thing and I'll say everything's a fact. I used to say something else too. Vance used to call me out on it, and it was something about fact.
Shout out to Vance.
Yeah, shout out to Vance. Hey Vance.
Calling out.
Yeah,
hey
Vance. So church, moved here, worship leader, young adult leader. What's the what has been one of the biggest challenges, I guess, as a young leader, as you try to bring along other young leaders and bridge the gap at Mount Zion of people serving and doing? Has there been a challenge? Like, what is the hardest thing you think that as we try to reach the community, that we run into?
As she thinks about this question, we'll just take this time. No, don't look at me. You're supposed to be thinking about the question. My goodness.
I'm looking at you because you're talking, man. The biggest challenge for me personally,
I think just as the worship leader at Mount Zion, as a young Christian that's like trying to live out her faith and do things, like what are some things you run into that you're like, oh, I didn't think this was going to be that difficult. Oh, I thought more people would be here. I don't know. I just like what's been like how has being on a staff, like, how's it been the last year?
Well,
it doesn't have to be a challenge.
I guess that's a good question.
Well, maybe I don't want to know.
The boss is pretty challenging.
Yeah,
that's the hardest part. Yeah.
Listen, this is a fact. I'll use facts on this one. If I'm a challenging boss, you're not going to make it in the world.
Well, I would have to co-sign again. Yeah. He's 2 for 2 right now.
No, I think for me personally, the biggest challenge of like being on staff and everything is just, it's so new to me, because like the church I have been going to all my life, we don't have any type of like staff like that, or there's no structure. It was very just, can you do this, can you do that, oh, she can do that, she can do this, then she's in charge type of thing. And there was no structure or anything. So having a church that actually has structure, and I love structure, so it was great for me, but just getting used to it was the hard part. And then the whole being the youngest, because in my culture, it's like you respect your elders and you respect people who are older than you. You're younger, you don't know much, listen to your
Be quiet, youngin'.
Exactly. And so just having to be in charge of people who are making decisions and being in charge of people who are older than you, that are on your team, that's been the hardest part for me, to be bridging the gap. And still working on it, but it's more so just a culture and a culture clash with, like,
what does that mean?
You know what I mean? I don't know.
No, that's
one of the.
That's kind of why.
I'll let you comment on that culture clash thing in a second. But one of the things that we discussed as soon as she started, I was like, "Hey, did you mention this, like, to the worship team or to whoever?"
Oh, okay.
And she's like, "Well, I mean, I'm like the youngest one there," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but that's what I would say. Yeah, you are. That's why you're there, and you're in charge. So just say it."
Please tell me that was not your actual response. So did you tell them? Well, I mean,
no, that was pretty much your actual response.
You would tell them I'm the youngest one.
Well, she wouldn't tell them, but
she would tell them you.
Yeah, that's what she told. Like, I'm younger than all of them. I'm like, I get it. So I mean, that culture thing, it plays into it. I mean, it's a real thing, and so that's been. I won't say it's a challenge. That's just like a growing thing, and I think we've seen that growth happen there. People following and buying in and doing worship stuff. When Sandy first started visiting, when Steve first took over, like, we had no drummer, we had no bass player, we had nothing. Like, and Enrique and those guys kind of are learning on the fly still. Honestly, they know a lot, but they're still learning, and so it's just been. It's happening. Like, I guess it's like the vision that God gave us to just switch it up a little bit and to do what we're doing. It's happening, and we see it all across the board, whether it's through choir, whether it's through youth ministry, trying to start something, and now our worship team just looks good. The stage looks better. Just been adds up on all the cool things God's doing. But what do you mean there was a culture clash?
Was it like a
Like a young old clash or a
young and old, or was it just like, oh wow, this is different from the Cambodian way of doing things versus, I guess I don't want to say American, but more so I'm going to say the Mount Zion way of doing things.
Yeah, I guess.
Is theirs more contemporary?
No.
Okay.
I would say.
Is ours more contemporary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but culture clash, as in like, there are things in my culture, like the Cambodian culture that we do, that is like American culture is see it as like differently. Okay. You know what I mean?
For example,
I said, do you care to?
I mean, yeah, you don't want to say it.
Well,
you can say I don't want to say it.
No, I already kind of gave the example of just like having somebody that's older than you.
So making decisions. So it's just,
making decisions.
Okay.
But
so basically giving
orders to older people who are
saying,
older.
hey, you're doing this weekend.
Yes.
But in your culture, it's like, who do you think you are?
Right.
I get it. Okay.
So it's like telling my mama, hey, do this.
Gotcha.
And like,
it's like, wait a minute.
Be like, hold up.
I mean, he did make me in charge. Listen, and that's why you come back and be like, well, I'm the youngest, so I told him, but
I'm just like a baseball coach or somebody when little kids go and be like, well, my coach said or whatever. No. I never. It's your mama or somebody. I never said.
Yeah.
I've had youth whenever I used to be the youth pastor. I've heard them talking to their parents before and be like, well, Pastor Russell said, and I was like, dude, don't
breaks.
Don't tell your mama I said that. What are you talking about?
I've never had to use that one. I've never been allowed to use it. Well, my mom said.
Yeah, your mama don't play that.
No, I mean, cause not especially if it was like something like you had to relate to somebody else who was older than me. I wasn't gonna be the one be able to say it. Hey, what'd your mom say? Well, she's right behind me, so you can talk to her, not to me. It'd be one of those situations. I'm telling you, my mom walked me to my classroom up to 5th grade.
Yeah.
Then again, I went to school here, so it's a whole different. Same way, family here, the school was the same way. So, just to give you a little background.
Yeah, that's true. So, Emmanuel, what has been since you were just starting your real job the last time we got together 6 months ago?
6 months ago, I wasn't even considered an employee at the time.
There you go.
Yeah, so,
you're a contracted peasant, and now you are moving up the ranks. Now you're a hired peasant.
That doesn't make as much, which is crazy. I was making
you don't make as much as when you were.
Well, yeah, overtime. So I'm not getting paid time and a half. Don't get me wrong. If you're listening and you work in my company, I love it. It's great. I have no problem.
Come visit us on Sunday mornings at 10:45.
Yeah, come visit 10:45.
See where Eman worships.
Yep.
So, how's the adjustment been going for you? As a, are you able to? Because I'm always curious about this. Does your faith come into your job at all?
In ways, as far as like the job, no. But as far as like we sit down for lunch, absolutely. I mean, conversation is had amongst everybody, and there have been many a conversation within the secular world, which I'm sure you know. It's like, well, I'm just not gonna eat. I'm gonna eat at my desk today. I see where this is leading. But to answer your question, yes. I mean, within the job, yes, but not necessarily within the field of accounting. I mean. The closest thing as far
I guess I mean more like in your accounting practices.
Oh yeah, I mean ethics.
Ethics. That's the word I'm looking for. There you go.
That would be the biggest faith example.
Have you had a challenge of that yet, or is it just it could be there?
I would say the biggest challenges that I faced is because now I don't want people to think, oh, all he does is taxes. They're not that hard. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. They are.
I mean, can't you just use TurboTax?
I mean, you can. Don't get me wrong. But we have so many different.
Sorry, no free ads. No free ads. Sorry.
Yeah, right. TurboTax. Yeah. Who's that? No. But as far as doing taxes, I mean, you have individual taxes, then you have business taxes, which the difficulty of taxes they increase. So when it comes to difficulties, you have the accountant, and then you have the client. Sometimes the client knows about accounting, and sometimes the client is just as good at they're just good at what they do, and they just make a lot of money, and it's like, hey, and then it's like, why do you have $40,000 in office expense and you don't have an office? So that's where it's like
that's when the ethics come in.
That's when ethics come in, and as far as like the Christian character and how I can portray it not only to my coworkers but also the clients is, I haven't experienced this yet, but I know it'll come in time. Is conversation with clients, not to give too much information. To mess up stuff, but I was talking with a manager who was having a conversation with a client who didn't want to accept the fact that they were last minute and the fact that they were kind of unorganized and a mess. But nonetheless, we took him as a client, did the work, or are doing the work, and we needed some more information, and we got an attitude. She got an attitude, and she was like, well, I could have reacted one of two ways. I could have brought the attitude right on back because, yes, this is deadline. You gave it to us last minute. It had every reason to be mad, but at the same time, you're my client. This is what, yeah, I signed up for this in the job mindset, but at the same time, it's like, okay, hey, I get it. You acting mad and all this blase, but you got to pay. So that's my mindset is you're going to have to pay at the end of the day. Why respond in such a way that is un-Christ-like?
Of course.
You're going to get, I mean, you get it. People aren't always going to have their best days. Yeah. They just aren't. And sometimes, within my business, deadlines are deadlines. And sometimes when we've been reaching out for months and you come at the last minute and we still take you and you come at us with attitude and we respond with peaches and roses, you should be like, oh, thank. They are some nice pieces of people over there. So, but it does come play a factor in the job for sure.
Yeah, that's what I would expect it to. That it would more in how your demeanor is, how you communicate, how you treat clients. I would think the ethics part would definitely come into it at some point. Like someone's going to be like, "Oh man, you didn't see that."
Oh yeah, I mean,
can't you make that disappear? And you're like, technically, I could.
But I mean, see that I think that's where people don't understand as far as ethics. Yeah, I can make it disappear, but it's gonna come back eventually. Yeah. So I make it disappear in 2023. Great. 2024 passed and go. 2026 comes. Hey, they're asking about that amount. I made it disappear again. I can't make it disappear again. Right. Even though it didn't exist.
It's gonna catch you at some point.
I mean,
it's like that whole thing with lying. Like once you start telling a lie, you start
make a bigger lie.
Weaving this web, and
it's not worth it.
You'd have just been better just.
And this is what I tell anybody that wants to do crooked business. Don't get an accountant that has a seat. Don't get an accountant. If you want to do crooked business, do it yourself. Because I have so many people like, man, can't you just say I don't want to have to owe the government nothing. Well, how much money did you make?
Yeah.
I made this much money. Well, you're gonna owe them.
Yeah.
That's just how life goes.
How it works.
Me as the accountant, no matter what number I put down, they have it, so they know what you make.
Yeah.
But ethics and your character is probably the biggest thing as far as how can I show Christ in the everyday workplace. And I think that could be a challenge. I mean, that's not just in my job. I think that's in anybody's job.
And I think I've been talking about it a lot lately. I feel like I have, but I guess it's maybe just been on my mind and heart lately. Is we have it a lot easier. Most of the people we circulate with are Jesus-minded. Yeah. If not, they're like at least thinking about it. If they've communicated with us, and so our conversations are always a lot easier to throw that in there. Yeah. But I was talking to a young man a couple of weeks back, and he stepped away from ministry actually to find out like how hard it actually is out there. Kind of his reasoning, right? Am I telling the truth? Yeah, it's kind of his reasoning. And he came back and was like, "It's super hard, dude." He's like, "No one wants to hear what I have to say. Like, they don't even want to entertain the thought at all." He's like, "No one's looking for it. Yeah. They don't want to know. They just want to do their job and go home." And he's like, "I'm not
collect a check."
Yeah. So I've been trying to remember that and think about that as I've been challenging people to step out of their comfort zone and do things and whatever. You got to remember the world we're dealing with. Yeah. And I think that it was the same world that Paul and these guys were dealing with as we were reading this morning. People were just as jacked up then. It's just a different way to be jacked up. What?
We were reading it yesterday.
We were reading on Sunday. Yeah. Sorry, 2 days ago. Yeah, my bad.
But yeah, people are jacked up.
People were messed up even in that time and day, and the evil one has been working on people, all of that stuff. So it's just we're just the people here now. Yeah. It's what I always got to remind myself, like, why do we have it so bad? Why do we have this? Why is this struggle? Dude, it's always going to be something. We're just the ones doing it now. So while we're the ones going through it, then our call is to honor God through the whole process, right? And direct everything back to Jesus' forgiving, and he's the one that establishes and saves and redeems and all this stuff. And then everything else is built on relationships and trust and like doing life together. But that's just like, that's it. Like that is that's the crux of the whole thing. And then people are like, well, I can't invest that much time in that, or that doesn't seem that awesome, or I don't know. It's just
that's not cool.
Yeah.
It's not the norm. I mean,
just one of the challenges. It's a good challenge. I mean, I feel like we have so many successes. I honestly don't know what I would do if like we got turned away at a school or we got like challenged. But yeah, like God just opens up every door for us. It seems like anything we are financially able to do or physically able to do, He lets us do.
Yeah,
He's yet to shut a door on anything like that. So I think that's really cool how He continues to use us in that regard. Sandy, what do you think is? I forgot to introduce our producer for the podcast, Miss Starling Davis. Welcome to the podcast, Star.
welcome, Star.
She said hi, but you can't hear. Star, you have to give me a, we've been on for 40 minutes mark at some point, okay? And then we're going to wrap up at 45 for today, okay? For our pilot episode. We're at 45 minutes at this moment.
Wow.
Oh, man.
See, you guys, time flies when you're having fun. So it's awesome. Hope you guys.
We talk about none, but we talked about everything.
We haven't talked about anything. But this is what we said the podcast for today was, introducing ourselves and seeing what was going on. So, Sandy, what do you think is, I guess if you had to say one goal you have as the age person you are, if I could just say how old you are.
Just say it.
I don't know what it is. I don't know.
You don't know my age?
So as a 29-year-old young lady.
There you go.
I know how old you are. As a 29-year-old young lady, like what is like one challenge like that you see coming up that is going to like, I guess what is something that we need to be looking at as we're moving forward, like to reach people? You listen to a lot of podcasts, you do a lot of that kind of stuff. What's out there that I need to be aware of, that we need to just be praying about? Like, what's something that you pray about and it's out there? Amen?
That's something that I pray about.
I'm just saying, like, as we try to do this thing together, like,
as far as the goal of the podcast,
even not the podcast, like just as Mount Zion, as you, Eman, Russell, Sandy, like, when you think about the world, because I'll go first. Like for me, what do I see is the next thing that God wants Russell to do at Mount Zion to like the next future thing? I know it has something to do with connecting this generation with this generation and trying to bridge that gap, because I keep saying it. Sometimes I think I say it too much, that if we as the younger people, and I keep putting myself in that younger group until they tell me to not be in that younger group, because they keep saying I'm in that group, so I'm fine with that. Okay. But until all of us younger people understand the importance of giving and serving, and we are the church, like we're the church, like literally, like we're the church. We're all together. Like there's not some savior out there that's going to step in and financially provide for us if we don't. Getting an older generation to help a younger generation understand that and different things. I think what happens in churches, and I only know this church, so I don't have a lot of experience, but there's like, you get to a certain age and you don't say these words like out loud, but you have this thought of, I've been there, done that. My kids are grown. I don't serve in the nursery. My kids are away at college or here and there. I don't volunteer for youth ministry. My kids are, I've done that 20 years ago. And my whole point in all that, and I try to say it, is, that's exactly why I need you. Yeah, because you've already raised a kid. You've already done all that. Yeah. And so as I look into the next year, and so that, I mean, my focus is trying to connect with every age group, and I'm doing it with certain age, like people in both age groups. But as a collective whole, that's a challenge for me. I'm trying to get better at that. So I guess that's what I'm asking you. Like, as you're doing your ministry, you're living your life, your Christian walk, what's the next thing that you feel like God's pushing you to or challenging you on, I guess?
I would say just from the perspective of not necessarily working for the church, but being
being a what? In
A classes.
You don't want to...
Somebody working in the world, basically not working for a church. I feel as though I'll say my goal is to make.
Are you talking about like a secular job? That gets a negative content.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I didn't want to use that word.
When you say like, you have a secular job, not like a church job, like many people are like, what does that mean? I don't work
for a ministry. But no, I think getting as far as like the mindset of church isn't just a building. It's not the four walls. I gotta look like this. I forgot to get up on the mic. I gotta look like this. I gotta be this certain perspective. I feel like a lot of people who I'll just say what I work with. It's like, I'm not church enough for the church. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, that's not even the case. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, that's who they want. Because you're not church enough, they want you at the church. I feel like that's a struggle for. I've seen that a lot post COVID. I don't need to be in a church which I think you spoke on, like, which is not the case. I think it's important to be around fellow believers. It's important to come back into a structure where, okay, everybody in this room is talking about God.
And I think that was the basis of that podcast, right, that you shared with me, was like, after COVID, you have so many people that are like, well, I can just stay at home, watch a live stream. I don't need that. I don't need to go to a building to get my God. And she was saying, but you do need it. Like, you do need that fellowship, and you do need to be in there to worship beside other believers. She's like, the problem is, though, I've been on my couch for 6 months. I don't have to go to church. I can watch it from home. Okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to go to a church building. And then I just sit there and listen to this guy talk about whatever he wants to talk about. He read the scripture at the beginning. Yeah. He never went back to it. He's just blabbing on about da. And then we're done. She's like, well, why did I even... what am I even here for? I could have got that anywhere. And she's like, so that was the point, like, trying to stay focused to the message when I'm preaching. Like, I think I do anyways, but just to make sure, because as people are coming back, I don't want to be any fluffy church stuff and use churchanese. I mean, like the church words. Yeah. Don't want to do all that. Trying to just be real and, like, bring everyone into it. That's why I explain the Lord's Supper every time we do it. When we do anything, like, out of the ordinary, try to explain it in so basic terms because everyone doesn't know. Yeah. Communion means the Lord, whatever we're doing. Yeah. Tithing, people don't, you know what I mean? Like, so try to remember that as people are coming back from COVID because, that is a real thing. Yeah, for sure. Sandy, any thoughts? Like, what's God pushing you? What area?
I feel like I'm in this weird in-between stage. Like, people my age, like 30s, we're kind of like, we're not young anymore, but we're not that older generation either. What's the move for us? Because it's like we went from being the youth, having to be discipled and everything, to now where we have to be the discipler. Is that the right word? The discipler.
Yeah, that's right.
I like it.
We're not a grammar podcast.
But that was correct. I think
that was correct.
And then trying to, like, mentor someone else is, like, where we should be at. But I still feel like, me personally, I need that discipler from myself, from, like, the older generation to, like, walk beside. So it's kind of like a weird transition in between stage for me. And I don't know if that speaks to the other young adults in our group too, but it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, we were talking the other day about just Bible studies in general, and, like, classes and discipleship, and how it has such a boring
stigma.
That's the word. Yeah. And it's like, dude, we are studying the living Word of God. Yeah. This has the power to change. It literally has changed my life. Yeah. Like, I know it has. And we're studying it, and we get to a point where we're just reading it. Yeah. And someone's sharing about it. And how many different ways can you say about God's grace and God's mercy and your examples in your life? And you only live your life, so you only have so many examples. And it's like, what are we doing? Yeah, so you got to be. That's why you have to live it, I think. That's why you have to, like, be in it and around people and doing life together. Because if you just are expecting to come to a Bible study and get fed and walk away and be like, I'm good for whatever, you're going to fail. And you're going to walk away going, I'm not going back to that Bible study. I'm not going to that church. But if you are around the people, because I think a lot of times on Wednesday night, our Bible studies, there is a Bible study and we are going over a topic and a certain thing. It's more about the people in the room, though, and, like, the conversations and the you giving a point over here and you giving a point over there, which may be totally not what I'm talking about. But we'll go down those roads just to, because if you're saying it, you're feeling it. Yeah. And if we're not talking about what the real people in the room are talking about, then what are we doing? So that kind of thing. But, yeah, it's just interesting that it gets such a bad, boring stigma about it, and it's the living, breathing Word of God, and we're like...
And that should be the most fun.
Should be. They show those videos of, like, little kids in, like, third world countries when, like, planes land, bringing them Bibles, and they're like, yo! And I got, like, 5 Bibles, like, laying around my office.
No one opens them anymore.
All the different versions.
That's funny that you said that, because I was sitting in church today. Yesterday, which was today.
2 days ago. It's Tuesday when this comes out.
Tuesday. Whatever. I was sitting in church September 10th. How about that? And I was just observing. Yeah. I'm like, And I was sitting with my
with your phone.
With my girlfriend. I was like, I gave her my phone to read the Bible. And I just picked up the Bibles that are in the pews. I'm like, man, this thing is dusty. Yeah. I mean, it's like And so I read from it today on Sunday. I read from it. I'm like, wow, this is, and I think it's something different when you actually hold the word.
It absolutely is.
Versus don't get me wrong, the phone is a great technology.
The phone is convenient if you're like not at church.
Right. Exactly. Right. And the pew in front of you, unless you sit on the front row, which most people don't.
You're right.
There's a Bible there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just found
something about holding an actual book.
It's. I think you get more.
Yeah.
I hate to be so little kid about it. I feel like it's like you get power from, like, literally, like you get juiced up.
But I don't think you're being a little kid about it. I think like that's what the essence of God is. It makes you so excited and like in that moment where you like, I'm acting like a little kid. I don't even care.
Right.
Because that is the excitement. And the problem is we get so grown and we want to be like grown-ups before we're grown-ups and want to be aged up and all these things. And so we don't enjoy like the little.
I want to be.
She said, I want to see kid fella.
Like Billy Madison. Don't ever grow up. But so those type of things. And so we didn't answer any of y'all's those questions tonight. Like we did not have one single answer to those things. Like what the problem, like what our challenges are, where we're going, any of that, which is not, we'll never give you all the answers, but I think it's real life conversations is the point of what we're trying to do here. And we will address these things as we keep going and get into some scriptures and talk about different things. The flow of the podcast will change from week to week. We will have a script, we'll say it in quotation marks because I don't like scripts. And so we'll have just like a rough outline of where we want to go and how we want to do it. But our goal is, as always, just to bring honor to God, to introduce people to Jesus, to introduce that there is a way to live for Him and like in real life. And this is how we do it. We're only 3 people, but 3 people is more than like seeing nobody do it. So, and we're real people, I think. We're not fake Christians. Like we're not out there trying to act holier than thou. We have holy moments for sure, but we also have unholy moments. We have holy words that we use, and we also use unholy words. And so we're just like real people. And I hope that it inspires people to know that it can be done, that God honors just the humility in trying and being sold out and obedient to it. And so as we continue in this, that's the focus for me. And so any closing thoughts before we go from either one of you guys?
Join us Sunday.
Eman's big on these announcements, going in some commercials. So we'll have little commercials that break up the monotony of us talking, which I always feel like, and I don't know if it's just people listening or what, but it goes by so fast. Like, I hope that listening, it goes by so fast. When I listen to podcasts at home, they go by really fast, and so I hope it comes across that way. But we appreciate you guys. I'm trying to not say smash that like and subscribe button.
Smash that like and subscribe button at the bottom of the screen right there.
Laughing at some YouTube videos the other day, people always saying that, but we really do need you to like and subscribe.
Please, you don't have to smash it.
We've issued a challenge to Sandy. I won't give you a number, but if she can get our number up by just a few, she doesn't get a bonus or anything.
We're not far.
It's just straight. It's just
I get nothing.
She gets nothing, actually. It's just
she does.
She will get a that a girl.
I'll spoil it. She gets a high five.
Yeah, and I'll say that a girl. So there we go.
That a girl and a high five.
Appreciate you, Eman. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Star. Thank you for your time. We will catch you next week. Until then, keep your eyes on Jesus. He will use you for more than you think He can. Keep your hearts on Him, your minds on Him, and be ready for Him to use you in ways that you're not expecting.
Yes, sir.
God bless.
God bless.